We go. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the Aggie Pridecast here live on the video, the Zoom video, as we continue to be isolated from everyone else, but we still have the opportunity to interview some of our great coaches and great student athletes. And we have with us here the head coach of the North Carolina A&T baseball team, the 2018 MEAC Coach of the Year, and certainly their 2020 season was getting off to a great start. They had beaten a Power Five twice in Boston College, and certainly we're on their way to, we believe, doing some great things before the pandemic hit. Coach, how you doing?
Good. Good spirits, hanging in there. I'm sure just like everybody else is, and just trying to fill some time with some forward work and some thinking and enjoying the opportunity to catch up with family a little bit, but definitely missing the guys and missing the normal routine for sure.
Well, we certainly want to send our condolences to you. We know your grandfather passed away. We know what a great influence he was on you and your character. And I can say I didn't meet him, but just knowing you, he's a great man. And so
I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. It was kind of a cool story. I mean, my first year when I was the interim coach here, we played up at East Tennessee State University in Johnson City, and he was 95 this year. So back at that year, he was I think it was probably 90, 91. And my grandmother at the time, who was still alive, was not doing very well in health, but they got to come out to the field at East Tennessee State, meet us during pregame. He walked down to the field and got to, catch up a little bit and see, maybe just some of the pregame stuff of me doing my work. And so it was a neat experience there, a few years ago, but he lived a good life, and we'll gather the family a little bit in a small setting, unfortunately, but we'll be all good. So I appreciate the well wishes. Thank you.
No problem. We need to pretty soon start rating some of these beers, some of these coronavirus beers. Coach Ross had a pretty good one, and you've got a pretty good one there working, and certainly Spencer does as well. What is these last maybe, I guess we're about 28 days in now. What's that been like for you?
Well, I think, at the start of it was tough because there's, so much unknown, and it's all negative, and, it's kind of worst case scenario everywhere you look. And, you just try to keep yourself in a present thought process a little bit. And I think as we've gotten through these couple weeks, at least I have, I've gotten an opportunity to find a little bit more of a routine in some form that keeps my mind in a place that's positive. And, you start to you don't get definitive answers in what might happen, but at least you're getting a little more information, and you start to feel a little bit better about some things that you're going to do moving forward, and that we're all going to come out of this okay. And obviously it's impacting a large amount of people, but, anytime you're thrown off of what you do on a daily basis for years and years and years and years, it's tough to adjust to for sure. But I just try to tell our guys, tell the kids, our coaches, myself, for as a struggle as it is for yourself, man, there's a lot of everybody's dealing with it. So it's not just you, and the people, everybody, the more positive you think about it, the more you follow the instructions, the more you can continually self-isolate and do the things you're supposed to do. If we all do that as a country, we're going to come out of this much quicker than hopefully we thought. So, I've settled in. We're doing a lot of preemptive work and preparation for getting out of this thing on a positive light and getting ready for a new year, because the work at some point will go back to normal, and then we'll have to be prepared to go. So,
Coach, how often have you been able to talk with your team since this all started?
Just a couple times. I haven't. Let's be serious here. We're not playing next week. We don't need to practice. We don't need to meet as a team that much. Really, these guys, the only thing that they're really required to do right now is do the schoolwork, right? And so we had a Zoom meeting last week where we kind of caught up with the guys as a group, went over some things, kind of tried to cover a few questions that they probably were having over the last couple of weeks, and then just try to keep checking in on guys we feel like need some coverage or some lookout on what they're doing academically, make sure they're getting the things they need. Because that obviously is not an ideal situation to go from an in-class learning scenario to an online learning scenario. Because the professors have to adjust too. I mean, there's an adjustment period for both sides. So, but everybody's in good spirits. Everybody's healthy. I think our guys, believe it or not, as young and immature as many kids in college are, they're heeding the warnings, and I think for the most part appropriately being safe. So really happy with that.
Coach, for you had such a senior laden staff and roster. How is this all going to affect you next year? And how does it change your plans for who you're trying to welcome into the program, whether that be via JUCO or high school freshmen?
So that's in college baseball, that's the golden question right now. And really that question, depending on who you talk to and what program you talk to, you're going to get different answers. That was the hot topic leading into the NCAA Division I Council vote. Really thankful and glad that they met appropriately and came up to the right conclusion to give these guys their year of eligibility. I think as hard as it is to manage all the different layers of what that means for college baseball, in the end, coaches are resilient. We have to bounce rosters every year with our roster limitations. It's never easy. So I think anybody that tries to tell you that, oh man, this is the end of the world, we can't bring all our seniors back because we have recruits coming in, really in the end, that's just a cop-out. Us coaches work really hard. We have to balance the roster every year. We recruit to be competitive, and we have to find ways to be creative in how we build our rosters. So I'm just really proud and excited, after meeting with Mr. Hilton, our administration's willing to support all of our seniors coming back. I got obviously talked to Dwayne saw Dwayne's podcast and, obviously working to bring, their seniors back. It just means too much to too many people despite how tough this situation is, to not allow these guys to finish the right way. And there's a cost associated with it. There's no doubt about it. But for us in our program, the cost is worth it. Because our seniors was a great group, and that group was outstanding to be around, and we want to have those guys back in full force, and so we're really happy and excited to have the opportunity to bring those guys back and have them want to come back. I think it says a lot about our program. So really, it's not affecting us much. There's going to be a little bit of this and that and maneuvering and figuring things out, but we're going to bring our guys back, and we're going to bring our guys in, and we'll make it work and make it fit in however we can, and to build the best team we can here, going into next year and then obviously years to come.
Coach, obviously the ballpark that you play in has a lot of character. Saw your post on Twitter the other day. What do you tell kids coming in about War Memorial Stadium and just the advantages of playing in a historic park like that?
Well, just in the end, I try to tell guys, obviously it's ours, and we there's a lot of places out there that don't have their own park, and so we take a lot of pride in being able to have our own place. And I think that's the most important piece to what we're trying to do is, we want to have our own place, be able to continue to build on it. So while it is by no means the nicest park out there, it does not have all the bells and whistles. We don't have neon lights behind our lockers. We don't have a 10-man grounds crew, doing the work on our field. There's a lot of history and tradition there. And in the end, it's going to be nice someday. We don't know how long it's going to take. But I tell a lot of guys this when we're out recruiting. I mean, in the end, you can go to a place with the nicest facility in the country, but if you don't make the roster there, if you run into a situation where you're not valued in that program, and you don't last there, and you have to transfer or to cut after a fall semester, what good does that premium facility do for you? It really doesn't serve you much because you're moving programs and going somewhere else. So we've been really fortunate here. Our kids are here for the long haul for the most part. And, we try to just put the value into the student athletes. There's so much work to do on that field. You can't do it in a single year. So, we just try to keep making strides with it each year. Right now nobody's on it and playing on it. So it probably looks the best it's looked in a long time, with no play on it. But we're going to continue to work, and we want to keep up with everybody, and we want to continue to prepare for future endeavors we're going to be on. And obviously having the nicest facility that you can possibly have is the utmost important.
Well, let me say this. I think it shows a lot of character from your program to see the guys working on their field and taking pride in their own field when they're out there working on it after games and before games. And so it really is really good to see, the guys taking pride in it, when they're, working on it during the season. So
yeah, and I think it definitely instills some ownership of the place. If we don't work on it, it's not going to get done. So we really don't have a choice. We want to make it as nice as possible. We could, not do anything with it and then get bad hops and, have things hurt us as far as the play goes on the field. And in my mind, if you have to, you do it yourself and you just work your butt off at it and make it as nice as you possibly can. I mean, if you're going to do anything, do it at your best. That's what we try to do with that thing, despite the tough times and struggles you have with it. So,
Coach, you beat a Power 5 last year on the road in South Carolina. Did it mean more to knock off Boston College twice at your place?
I don't know that I would value it more. I think it's an opportunity to beat them on the weekend. Boston College had a good team. I mean, they had a good offensive group. They had some, it was a talented team. I mean, they were kind of picked as a sleeper in that ACC. And, that Friday arm that we were fortunate enough to beat on Friday in that game, that was a big atmosphere as far as college baseball goes. I mean, he was a premier pitcher. Our Friday night guy's a premier pitcher. And, to go out and beat a team of that quality in a 2-1 game on Friday is different for sure than doing it on a Tuesday. I think it says a lot about, the maturity of the program and where we're getting, the composure it takes to play in a 1-run game like that. And those are the kind of things that are going to continually have to be a hallmark of what we do, because the higher levels you play in college baseball, the more opportunities you're going to be playing in games like that. The better the competition is, the more 1-run, nip and tuck, high stress situations you're going to be in, because the other team's not just going to give you a win. If you're going to beat good teams, you got to go out and beat them. So I don't know that I'd value it anymore, but it definitely, I think, it's almost like one more step of a progress in my mind. We beat some good teams in the midweek last year. Well, this year we got an opportunity to beat a really high quality opponent on the weekend. So if you keep following that trend, that speaks a lot for, what's possible next year.
Coach, I don't want you to give away any trade secrets here, but you guys have been able to amazingly keep pitchers very healthy during your tenure here. And you certainly have a great weekend rotation with Johnson and Chavis and Cole Parks. What goes into making sure those arms are ready to go when it's time for them to go?
Well, it's twofold. It starts with Coach Serb and the way he works with our strength coach, Devin Young, to make sure, a lot of people that aren't baseball, really close into baseball don't realize what goes into recovery for a pitcher. When those guys go out, one of our weekend guys go out on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, they basically are gassing their body out for as long as they can gas it out. And they physically cannot come back and pitch for another at least 4 to 5 days, because they literally they're basically running a marathon on a mound. And so, Jamie's always had a good recovery plan for those guys. It basically is a specific, 5-day process, 6-day process to get ready for the next Friday. And weight room, running, shoulder flushes and all these different things, plus a build-up bullpen, throwing program. And, so if Michael starts on Friday, he's got a specific weight room, conditioning, throwing program starting Saturday morning that gets him back ready for the next Friday. I think the other important factor is our guys work hard at it. They take pride in it, and so, when arm health is of the utmost importance to a baseball player, you only get one shoulder and you don't want to have it fixed or at one elbow. So I think these guys know how important it is to take care of it. And then the last part, I think, is you don't want to ever get too ahead of yourself on what we do as coaching staff, but we just try not to overthrow our guys. It's really that simple. I mean, there were times where there's a lot of places out there where you might be short in your pitching, and you try to run your pitchers out 2 and 3 times in a week. And we've been fortunate to have enough depth and believe enough in some certain guys where you don't have to overstress your pitchers, So when we come out at the beginning of the season, they're on a pitch count. We stick to it. When we get through the dog days of the season, we're not bringing our weekend guys back on the midweek unless, there's a short bullpen opportunity, we're never in a scenario where one of our weekend guys is going to throw 7 innings on Saturday and then turn around and have to pitch 5 innings on Tuesday and then turn around and pitch again on Saturday. We just don't do that. We'll find another way to win the ball game, not at the cost of one of our guys' health. So, you try to make sure and get that out to kids. I mean, that's an important part of being a pitcher and being recruited. You want to go to a place where you're taken care of, you're built properly, you're developed, but your health is taken into a high priority. So, we've been very fortunate here. We have not had, knock on wood, we have not had major arm injuries here that came from their process here. I think in the 5 years I've been here, we've had a couple that have come in, but Jamie takes a lot of pride in taking care of their health. So, and then, obviously we try to continue to do that day in and day out.
Coach, I know you have one more season in the MEAC, but how are you and your program preparing for the move to the Big South? The Big South is obviously a really solid baseball conference.
Yeah. Just recruiting. Recruiting's the lifeblood of every program. You recruit top down in your program. You create competition. That's what you do on a yearly basis. And that's what we are continuing to do. Obviously, we've got another year to go before we get there. So it's a back of the mind. It's not on the forefront of what we're thinking about. Obviously, your first thoughts are getting your guys back next year and trying to prepare for hopefully in essence, kind of a redo season. But as much as you're thinking and preparing with your seniors and what it takes to be ready for next year, you're recruiting and preparing for what it's going to take to hopefully walk into a new conference and be as competitive as possible. It just takes, good pitching, good defense, and a consistent offense in the end. And so we play those teams. I feel really confident in our guys and our program where we are, that we'll be in a great place when we make that transition. And we'll continue to get better and continue to put ourselves in a position to be a championship caliber program.
Have you had any contact with any of the Big South coaches or any of the Big South personnel in terms of, just some things to look out for? How much contact have you had with Big South personnel?
Not really, not a ton. I mean, I think obviously in the middle of this season, everybody's focused on today. I've had a couple conversations when you've been discussing scheduling a little bit, catching up with a couple of the coaches, and then we've communicated with a couple of them more just on this current environment we're in with the coronavirus, and just asking advice of each other, how they handling some certain things and what are they doing. But it's a great league. It is a great baseball league. Those programs all, for the most part, value baseball at a high level. The coaches in that league are very talented and very good-looking programs. So, it's definitely exciting opportunity to think about for our guys and for the program as a whole. And obviously going to be a big challenge. But, both Jamie and myself have experience in the league. He was a winning Friday night pitcher in the Big South. And so, we definitely have an understanding of what it's going to take for us to get into the higher levels of that league and make sure we're ready to, get our program in the right place there.
My dad can say, we ain't scared. We ain't scared.
No, we look forward to challenges. You're absolutely right. I mean, and I know every coach in our program will jump on here and tell you the same thing, man. I told when Mr. Hilton and Chancellor Martin started speaking about some of these things that may come down, I told them, you tell us where to go and we'll be ready. That's kind of our thought process. I mean, we've got a good team. I'd love to take all of our guys another year and keep our seniors for that year, because I think they'd be a great asset. But, that's why you recruit, and we've got some good players, younger players in the program that are going to be big assets. And we've got some exciting kids that we're in communication with right now too, that I think will be outstanding Big South players.
Coach, you hinted upon this when you were talking about pitching, but I don't think a lot of people who are not familiar with NCAA baseball understands what it takes to put together an NCAA baseball team, because I think people look at basketball and they say, well, everybody gets a scholarship, but that's not necessarily the case with baseball, and how you guys got to be creative to put together a team on the NCAA level. So can you kind of run through that real quickly for people who may not be familiar with that?
I mean, we don't have enough time to really explain it properly because Lord have mercy, it's definitely, if the average college sports fan knew what really had like a year to sit and watch a head coach in Division I baseball manage the things that we manage when it comes to personnel and scholarships and balancing those things, that they would get a huge tip of the cap because it's not easy. But I think in general, so the average Aggie fan understands what goes into this thing. And basically, with this coronavirus, the NCAA is going to allow us to bring our seniors back. They won't count against our roster, but we still have a roster limitation and a scholarship limitation. And so, what that standard limitation is we're allowed to have 35 players, student athletes, on our baseball roster, and we have the equivalency of 11.7 allowable scholarships. And so, and that can only be spread out to 27 players. So technically, you can have 27 of your 35 players on scholarship. The other 8 players have to be walk-ons. And those 27 players on your 35-man roster, not one of them can be on a scholarship less than 25% of a full, tuition, room and board offer. So those rules are constantly being discussed and talked about. I think baseball is the most regulated sport in all of college sports. I think that most head coaches would tell everybody. I was reading something the other day. I mean, college baseball players probably pay more in tuition than probably any sport in college athletics. I think if you calculated out what our kids pay in tuition as a whole, it's probably close to $500,000 a year. But you're also producing a really high level, talented group of people. And so, you've got some teams out there who have baseball players on low percentage scholarships getting drafted in the first 5 to 10 rounds of the Major League Baseball draft. So, that can kind of bring it home a little bit. So, it by all means is a tough scenario, but again, you just work really hard to balance it. You have to project in your dollars and how you spend your scholarships. You have to balance it across your position sets, because you've got value that you have to value through the roster, whether it be defensively on the field or obviously in the pitching staff. You can't spend all your money on pitching because then you won't have hitters. You can't spend all your money on hitters because then you won't have pitchers. And so, I think the biggest thing about it is I think a lot of people have got to really commend the college baseball player. The student athletes and their families make a huge commitment for the sport they love. And, to come to a university on, less than half of a scholarship and then commit to the hours and the, the level of that they have to be at the best, and then be challenged by their coaching staff to raise their level of everything they do to want to win championships. That's pretty special. It's pretty special, and I think that's why we as an athletic department are in that position where you want to take care of our students, our seniors, and take care of the student athletes first, because again, our guys definitely put a lot in, and a lot of times don't get a lot because of the limitations that we have.
Coach, this was supposed to be the first season of no divisions in MEAC play. That'll have to get pushed to another year unless another vote occurs between now and then. Was that something that you were looking forward to see some of the northern schools in the middle of the regular season?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think all the coaches were excited about that. You want to bring balance. We talked about a lot. At some point, that's what we wanted. If you play everybody, then you can truly crown a regular season champion. And I think that's important in college baseball. The tournament is what decides whether you go to the NCAA tournament or not. But the tournament doesn't always, in a sense, reflect who your best, club is. The long haul. Baseball is a long haul sport, and I think I value what you do in the regular season at a high level. Obviously, it gives you the 1 seed in the tournament. That's a big deal. But baseball, unfortunately, for us to get to the NCAA tournament, you got to play, 3 to 5 games really well in a week. That's the way it is. But if you don't win your tournament, obviously you lose the opportunity to play in the NCAA tournament, but that doesn't devalue, a team that went out and was really consistent over the course of, 14 weeks in the 56-game schedule, So, I think we were all excited to have the opportunity to see every team to balance the schedule out and really truly crown, a 1 seed amongst everybody for sure.
Coach, the last time we had you on, you were on with us with Leon Davidson. He talked about how much summer ball helped him, during the 2019 season when he had a 0.67 ERA. If there is no summer ball this year, and I know a lot of people don't have a lot of answers because we've never been through this before, but if there's no summer ball this year, how does that affect you going into the fall and then into the spring for 2021?
Yeah, that's definitely something that's up in the air. I know a lot of summer leagues are holding out hope, which is fine. We obviously are going to be 100% on safety and well-being of our student athletes first and foremost, and whether we even are supporting the idea of them going out and playing summer ball. But if there's no summer ball this summer, it's definitely going to have an effect. I mean, especially in a season where maybe one of your pitch starters, typically would have thrown about 80 to 100 innings this spring, and he really only threw 30. And you want to get the 100 innings in the course of a year to get the development and the work you need. So, you got young players who need at-bats, and they would have got their at-bats if they had played this full season. So we got cut short, so now they don't get those at-bats. And now they got to wait, and, they don't get at-bats in the summer. I mean, it's going to have some effect, but in the end, I don't think it's a deal breaker on your ability to be ready for next year. The young people are resilient. They'll find ways to get better. We'll find ways to help them get better. If they can play summer ball and we feel safe about it, that those leagues can do it safely and provide a safe environment for our players, then we'll definitely set them up to do it. If not, then we'll prepare in a different way and try to get ready and, maybe adjust how we run our fall. There might be some things we have to do a little bit differently in our fall practice period to make up for, not getting game opportunities. Maybe next fall we play a lot more than we just practice. We might, cut out a lot of the redundant practice time and just really toe it up and play. So there's a lot of things we can do to continually make adjustments. So.
Talk about your team this year. So unfortunate you guys didn't get to finish, but Cole Parks is coming off an 11 strikeout performance. You had guys like Dustin Baber, Ryan Stanley, who I really believe is one of the better catchers in the conference, defensive catchers in the conference without question. Talk about this team a little bit, your team, 2020 team this year, and just some of the things that you saw that gives you encouragement.
Yeah, so we were definitely really encouraged. I think that was probably the most frustrating part about getting cut off when we did. was I felt like we were getting ready to take some really good strides in some areas we didn't start out very well in. And guys were getting better. You mentioned Cole Parks. That his first start or two, there were some things in there he was still trying to figure out, whether it be his composure and some different how he handles, the ups and downs of a ball game. And then his last two starts, you saw that adjustment come, and so the offensive players, we took a tough game there at NC State, but you really saw some adjustments we were really asking of them to make come to fruition a little bit in that game. We were fielding 978. You look back through the history of our team, not only our team at A&T, but even in MEAC history, there's probably not many teams that are fielding 978 at that level. Really in essence, almost 980. And so when you start looking at some of those trends, where we were pitching at, where our defensive ability was and making routine plays and being able to play consistent defense day in and day out. And then what you were starting to see, like I said, on that Wednesday as a coach, offensively, it really, we talked about it as a staff. I felt like probably the next 2 weeks would have been our best 2 weeks. And I think there was some competitive nature that was really fun to see in our group. We had some tough one-run back-and-forth ball games that, if you nit and pick, if you hit a little better, we're probably winning some of those games. But, hey, we came up short in a couple of them. But the one thing that was not absent there was our competitive nature and the ability to respond to negative situations in the game. And, maybe we're not hitting very well right now, but, hey, we were down 5 runs. We came back and took the lead and kept competing. So, I think it's important to value this group. We were gonna have a good year. There was no doubt about it.
Yeah, it almost slipped my mind that you guys almost beat nationally ranked NC State in their place.
Yep.
Missing Boston College, but certainly that was one that we almost took away from them.
Yeah, and those guys are good, and you got to play almost perfect baseball in some of those scenarios, and we were 3 outs away with our best guy on the mound. What can you ask for? They hit Michael. They earned it. I'll definitely tell you that much. Michael was not, he was making some mistakes in that 9th inning, and he would be the first to tell you he hung some pitches and just didn't finish pitches like he typically does. But they could easily pop those up and miss them, and they didn't do it that inning. So you tip your cap. That's why they're so good, and their coaching staff does a great job building a great roster. But like every Aggie said, you keep giving us opportunities, we're going to come through on one of them here soon. So
we want to take him out with a little this or that here. Have a little fun with him.
All right, shoot.
Ready? All right, curveball or changeup? What's your preferred pitch?
If we're pitching?
Yeah, curveball. Hilton or the Marriott?
Marriott all the way.
Well, good thing. Mr. Hilton doesn't own the Hilton, so that's a good thing. Apple or Droid?
Apple.
M&M's or Skittles?
Skittles.
Zoom meeting or in person?
In person all the way.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars, 100 times, any day of the week, big time.
DC or Marvel?
I'd have to punt on that one. I was not really on either one. Never really into it.
Dunkin' Donuts or Krispy Kreme?
Krispy Kreme.
What you going to take the recruit to first? The new designed offices down at War Memorial or the Greensboro 4 statues?
Definitely going to go to the Greensboro 4 statue. The impact that has, honors in our campus. Our offices are nice. They're not that nice. They're nice though.
And we'll close out on this one. Aggie or Pride?
Aggie all the way. That's the first start. It's the first start of the saying. So we're Aggies. That's what we do.
No question about it. Coach, I want to appreciate you joining us here. Great background back there. Very creative on
hey, like
your
that?
part with the clock tower there. And you know, we want to wish you guys all the best. Unfortunately, we weren't able to finish what looked like it was going to be a promising season, but you guys have been great since your staff has been there. So we know some great things coming up.
Yeah, I would just tell all those Aggie fans, you know, be patient. And with patience, good things come. And I think that's definitely a case for all of our athletics. You know, don't be in the hurry to get places right now. Just be patient, and before you know it, we'll be winning baseball games, volleyball games, basketball games all over again, just like we were this past year. So we look forward to seeing everybody back at the parks and the gyms here when it's all safe, and for us to reconnect again.
Thanks, Coach. I echo those sentiments, and hope everyone has a good Friday. And we'll see you here next week.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.